Good morning. I invite you to stand as you're able to do so and join us in singing our opening hymn, Enter, Rejoice, and Come In, and really belt it out.
I invite Devin, Simone, and Matt Mousley to light the chalice this morning as we remain standing and join together in the recitation of our covenant. Enriched by our differences and joined together in our search for meaning, we covenant with ourselves and each other to seek truth in a spirit of love, to strive for justice, and to serve others with a joyful heart.
I invite you to take a moment to turn and greet the folks around you and say, welcome.
Everyone here in the sanctuary, and especially good morning to those of you joining us from Zoom. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Delaware County. My name is Ruth Hendry, and I'm serving as your worship associate today. If you are attending our service for the first time, you are especially welcome. And if you are on Zoom, remember you can activate closed captioning if that's helpful for you. And if you'd like to talk with others after the service, there will be a virtual coffee hour. Just stay logged in, and you'll be able to talk with others online. If you are attending worship in person, please join us in Fellowship Hall for coffee hour after the service. Now, please remain seated and join in singing our centering song.
Each Sunday, we gather together carrying all of the joys and concerns, joys and sorrows that we have with us today. And at this time in our service, we acknowledge those feelings by dropping a stone into a bowl of water. As we drop the stone, the water ripples, sending ripples through our community the way our feelings of joy and sorrow can ripple through our community and be held together in love. At this time, if you're here in the sanctuary, you can come forward and drop a stone. If you're on Zoom, you can share your joys and sorrows in the chat. All are welcome to participate. I will drop one final stone for the joys and sorrows that were shared on the chat and Zoom and that we hold in our hearts.
Let us be gentle with ourselves just now. For a few moments, let us release ourselves from a world that is too much with us, too noisy, too frantic, too demanding, too judging. Let us be gentle with ourselves just now. For a few moments, let us release ourselves into the calm, still world that waits to receive us, where the quiet is broken only by the sounds of our own making, by those of our children near at hand, by a passerby in the street outside, by a bird or an airplane high overhead. Within this welcome quiet, let us befriend ourselves. Where we would unfairly and endlessly berate ourselves for our imperfections, let the tongue of harsh judgment be silent. We will do better tomorrow. We will rise to the occasion. We will surprise the world with our goodness and our achievements. But for now, let us simply rest in the gentleness of this moment, letting the healing hand of self-understanding and forgiveness touch us with peace. Amen. Let's sing Spirit of Life.
At this time in our service, we ask for your financial support, the free and generous support of each member and friend of this community is what fuels this community and its mission. Without your support, the flame of justice, community, and love cannot burn brightly and be a beacon in the world. You can text your donation to the number provided on the screen. You are also welcome to drop a check in the boxes in the back of the sanctuary by the sanctuary doors. Thank you for your generosity.
Our story today is a Jataka tale. Jataka tales are ancient stories from the Buddhist tradition, and that's where our story comes from today. And it's about a deer. It's about a deer whose hide, whose skin is made of gold. Kind of weird, kind of different. But he's a deer with skin made of gold, and his name was Ruru. and he could talk to people. Kind of different. But the thing was, even though Ruru could talk to people, he chose not to, because he was a very wise golden deer, and he knew that if people knew that there was a deer made of gold living in the forest, some of those people might want to hunt and kill that deer for the gold. Not all the people, but some might. So Ruru generally stayed away from people. He felt like that was probably the safer choice for him. Except one day, Ruru went down to the river to get a drink of water, and when he got to the river, he heard lots and lots of splashing around and screaming. And he saw there was a man in the river. He had maybe fallen in or gone a little too deep, and he was drowning. And without a second thought, without considering whether he would be safe, Ruru went leaping into the river and saved the man's life. When they got to shore, the man was so grateful, and he said to Ruru, "Oh, how can I repay you? How can I repay you for saving my life?" And Ruru replied, which really did shock the man. Ruru replied, "I don't want riches or gold. I just want you to keep my secret. I don't want you to tell anyone about me. I don't want you to tell anyone where I live. I want to be allowed to live in the forest with no one knowing about me. That's all I ask of you." And the man whose life he had saved said, "Of course, yes, I can keep your secret." The man was kind of happy with that because he didn't have a lot of money, he didn't have riches or gold. So this was a treasure he could give. He could give secret keeping, he could give integrity. And so it went on for a couple years. The man kept the secret, and Ruru lived in peace in the forest by himself. And then one night, the queen of the land had a dream. She had a dream that there was a golden deer living in the forest, or living somewhere. She wasn't quite sure. And the queen believed that maybe this dream was true, and if it was, she really wanted that deer. That was really, she really wanted that deer. She had everything else in the world, but she did not have a golden deer, and she really wanted a golden deer. So she told her husband, the king, about the golden deer and about this dream she had had, and so the king made a reward. He offered a lot of money, maybe like $1 million, some ridiculously large amount of money, to whoever could lead him to this golden deer that his wife wanted, that the queen wanted. Now the man that Ruru had saved, the man in the river, he didn't have very much money, as I said. But he was a man of integrity, and so he resisted for a long time. He saw the posters advertising the reward. He heard all the townspeople talking about there was this reward if someone could find the golden deer. And he knew exactly where the deer was. But for a long time he resisted. And then eventually he stopped being able to resist that temptation for all that money. And so he went to the king, and he took the king into the forest and showed him exactly where Ruru was. And the king raised his bow and arrow and pointed it at Ruru. And Ruru said, "Wait, king." And then the king was very surprised because, again, talking deer. Ruru said, "Wait, before you shoot me, can you tell me who led you to me? Can you tell me how you found out where I was?" And the king pointed to the man and said, "This man told me." And Ruru looked at the man with sorrow in his eyes, and the man immediately felt terrible. And he said, "Oh, I am so sorry. I didn't mean for this to happen. I let my greed get the better of me. I am so sorry." And the king was like, "What's going on?" And so Ruru told the king the story of the man, told the king about saving the man's life and the man agreeing to never share the secret. And the king turned his arrow toward the man. My goodness. And Ruru said, "Wait, don't do that. Not a good idea. The man has said he is sorry, and I am forgiving him. I will forgive this man for what he's done." The king was so impressed by Ruru's wisdom that he put his bow and arrow down, and he said, "Will you come with me to the palace to meet the queen? She would love to meet you. And there you can live in safety and comfort. I think you are a wise creature, and I would love to have conversations with you and learn from you." And Ruru agreed. And he went and he lived in the palace with the king and the queen for the rest of his days. And from then on, the king decreed that every creature in the kingdom should be protected and respected based on the wisdom he learned from Ruru. Thank you for listening to my story today. It is time for our children to go to their RE classes. Joy will play our sending song. She'll play it once. We all sing together. The second time, our teachers will go into the lobby, and the third time, our students will join them.
Our reading this morning, In the Seasons of Our Lives, was written by the Reverend Rolf Gerhardt, a UU minister who served for 40 years as a minister. When he retired, he moved to Thomaston, Maine. He was an avid fly fisherman and a creator of world-class mandolins that people would come from miles around to buy. He had two companies, Unicorn Mandolins, and when that closed, he created, after a couple of years, he created Phoenix Mandolins. And the cheapest ones were like $500. Apparently, he was an exceptional woodworker. In the seasons of our lives, let there always be, in the seasons of our lives, a time for forgiveness. For such is being human, that we do unto others as they do unto us, that which needs to be forgiven. There is a saying that it's easier to forgive our enemies after we've gotten even with them. But is that in truth forgiveness? When we respond to hurt by hurting, to insult by insulting, to indignity by degrading, when we respond in kind, are we not merely adding hate and darkness to a world that needs love and light? Are we not keeping open the wound in ourselves by inflicting a wound in another? To heal, we must forgive. We must gather strength and insight and compassion and kindness and love and forgive. Let us forgive those who wrong us and do not know any better, and those who wrong us and know well what they do. Let us forgive the insensitive and the angry, the deceitful and the exploitive, the arrogant and the insecure. Let us forgive all who do not want peace in this world. Let us forgive all who do not wish to be forgiven. And let us forgive ourselves, for it is with ourselves that we are often the most unforgiving. Let us, in this spirit of forgiveness, gather all that we can of strength and insight and compassion and kindness and love, and purify our hearts and minds, that the spirit of forgiveness may shape the days of our lives, beginning at this moment.
Well, a few years ago, the New York Times published a front-page story called "Portrait of Religion in United States Holds Dozens of Surprises." And the first three sentences of this front-page article in the New York Times listed what the religion writer for the Times considered surprises. He wrote, "The state with the highest proportion of atheists is," anyone want to guess? The state with the highest proportion of atheists? Oregon. Most Americans of Irish ancestry are Protestant. Unitarians are more likely to be divorced than are members of other religious groups. Well, this last sentence caught my attention. Later in the article, it said, "The likelihood of being divorced is generally uniform across all religious groups. Roman Catholics, with 7.5% currently divorced, are only slightly lower than other mainstream Protestants and Jews, with 8.7% divorce. The Greek Orthodox have the lowest level of divorce, 4.4%, and the Unitarians the highest. 18% of us have been divorced." Well, why? Why do we have more divorced people in our churches? I don't think it's because we encourage divorce, especially when children are involved. I am not a supporter of divorce as a simple solution in marital conflict. I believe that when we are parents, we have a duty to try to stay together. We share responsibility for the children. that we have brought into the world. At their best, I hope Unitarian Universalist churches serve as a support system to encourage parents to stay together and work out their differences. Still, I would never suggest that every couple should stay in a relationship. I would not even suggest that every couple with children should stay married. Although Unitarian Universalist churches serve as a support system for families, we also affirm the inherent worth and dignity of every person. Unlike some religious communities, we do not stigmatize persons who have gone through a divorce. This affirmation of worth, of dignity, may explain why, compared to other churches, twice as many divorced persons attend our congregations. I have a friend, he lives in another state, and years ago I attended his wedding. About 10 years later, his wife left him. I asked my friend if he were to come to church to hear a sermon on divorce, what would be most helpful? And he said, I would find it most helpful to hear you talk about forgiving my ex-wife. I can get on with my life, I can move forward only so far as I can forgive her for leaving me. To the degree that I cannot forgive, he said, I remain stuck. Well, forgiveness is popular among Christians. In the late 1940s, the Unitarian Universalist theologian James Luther Adams was teaching ministerial students in Chicago, and he made the students an offer in his preaching class. Any student who would listen to the most popular religious broadcast of that time on the radio, the Lutheran Hour, and find a sermon on that broadcast that did not solve human problems with God's forgiveness would win $10. It was a good deal of money in the 1940s, the equivalent of more than $100 today. But no one ever collected. The phrase, God's forgiveness, was used every Sunday. As this story shows, forgiveness is a common word in traditional Christian sermons. For many people, the word has been used so much, so often, that it's lost its meaning. The Reverend Tony Larson was minister of the Unitarian Universalist Church in Racine, Wisconsin. Before he was ordained a Unitarian Universalist minister, Tony studied to be a Catholic priest. But he switched to Unitarian Universalism when we said we respect the dignity of everyone, including gay persons. Tony said about the word forgiveness, all my life I have been told that you should always forgive people. When I was in a fight or an argument, my parents or my teachers always told me to shake hands and make up. Never hold a grudge. So I always tried to do it. Whenever I felt wrong and I became angry, I would push those angry feelings away and say to myself, I hold no grudge. But you know, saying you hold no grudge doesn't mean it's true. You could say anything you want to yourself or to other people. But saying it doesn't make it so. I think we do a disservice to adults, Tony said, when we tell them they should forgive people who have abused them. The minister who tells a battered woman that she should forgive her husband and take him back no matter how much he beats her because marriage is forever and good Christians always forgive is wrong. And a Unitarian Universalist layperson made the same point. He said, Roger, preaching that people ought to forgive may do more harm than good. For many people, especially victims of abuse, saying that they should forgive trivializes the real hurts suffered and makes personal growth more difficult. And still another person said, teaching forgiveness is hogwash. You will turn everyone into benign, benevolent zombies. They will all be too blissed out to function in the real world, where you need a good, strong suit of armor to make sure you do not get eaten alive. Well, when a word is overused, as the word forgiveness has been overused, it sometimes helps to use a different word. So I want to take a step back away from the word forgiveness. And I want to suggest for a moment that we don't worry about forgiveness. Instead, I want to talk about understanding. Understanding. I suggest that the better we understand others with whom we are deeply upset, the better we can heal the pain inside us. The better we can wrap up our unfinished business and put it behind us. It helps to try to understand others and our relationship with them, not as a favor to them, but so that we can let go of the past and get on with our lives. How do we understand others who have hurt us? Well, we can look on it as a research project. We can investigate the history and the patterns in both our families. We can explore our memories of the relationship to try to understand what happened. We can read books about human behavior that might help us gain insight into others. We can talk to friends and relatives who knew us both, or talk to people in the church who knew us both and ask, what were your impressions of our relationship? What do you think was going on? If drugs or alcohol were a problem in the relationship, we can learn from attending a group like Alcoholics Anonymous or Al-Anon. We can weigh and we can shift through all this information that we gather in our research, and we try to make sense of it. In my own life, I've discovered that I can understand others only as far as I can understand myself. If I work hard at it, the attempt to understand someone who I'm angry with or disappointed with, it becomes an attempt to understand the mixed up thoughts and feelings inside me. I breathe deeply, and I let my feelings of anger and fear come to the surface. I discuss those feelings with people I trust. I explore where those feelings come from in my own history. I look again at my relationship with my parents, with my brother, with my two sisters, with my friends, with my teachers. The better I can understand myself, understand the source of my feelings and my motivations, the better I can understand others. As we learn about what is going on inside us, we are better able to use our imagination to put ourselves inside others and try to experience the world the way they experience it. And with this understanding, we are less likely to repeat the same patterns in a new relationship. If we work on self-understanding and if it leads to better understanding of others, perhaps somewhere down the line we can write a letter or say face-to-face to the person we're upset with, "I know you did the best you could. If you could have done better, you would have." And this statement, "I know you did the best you could," this is a healthy form of forgiveness. Now, in calling this forgiveness, I am defining forgiveness differently than people often define it. To explain how I'm using the word, it helps to say what forgiveness is not. Forgiveness is not forgetting. Past events and the pain the events caused have a great deal to teach us so that we do not repeat the same pattern in the future. Forgiveness is not forgetting. Forgiveness is not approving. By trying to understand others, we are not saying that their actions were acceptable. True understanding cannot occur when we are in any way denying or minimizing or justifying or accepting the actions that harmed us. Forgiveness is not approving. Forgiveness is not absolution. You're not absolving people for what they've done. When we try to understand others, they are still responsible for their actions. Forgiveness is not absolving. Forgiveness is not a form of self-sacrifice. In trying to understand others and what happened in the relationship, we don't swallow our feelings. We try to get in touch with our feelings and to learn from them. Forgiveness is not self-sacrifice. So when I say forgiveness, I do not mean forgetting or approving or absolving or self-sacrifice. I mean understanding. Understanding. I think about my friend and his divorce. Imagine saying to a man or a woman with whom you once lived and loved and now have separated from, "I know you did the best you could. If you could have done better, you would have." Being able to say this without the words sticking in your throat is forgiveness. Now, you may be thinking, I have studied the people who have hurt me. They definitely did not do the best they could. I know they could have done better. And I've had these thoughts myself more than once. When someone hurts me, I go through a process of grief. I have expected this person to be different from who they turned out to be. I imagine that they would see the world much as I see the world. I expected that they would be reliable, reasonable, and trustworthy. When I say they did not do the best they could, I am really saying I refuse to let go of my expectations. Forgiveness is the act of understanding myself and others well enough that I can let go of my unrealistic expectations. This is a goal worth working towards, a goal of understanding others so well that we can grieve the loss of our own expectations. After we've gotten in touch with our grief about our expectations, we might be able to say, I know you did the best you could. If you could have done better, you would have. Well, what do we gain when we reach this point? We gain the ability to move into a new relationship with someone else, having learned from the past and no longer carrying the baggage of the previous relationship. We can risk love and intimacy again, perhaps with expectations that are more realistic. As a group, Unitarian Universalists are more likely to have experienced a divorce than are members of other religious groups. In my experience, this is not because we are more likely than other people to mess up our marriages. It is because we do a better job in treating divorced people with the value and the worth and the dignity that they deserve. Divorced people come here because for them it is a safe, non-judgmental community. I'm a strong believer in marriage. Nevertheless, if you have gone through a divorce, know that here we will treat you with the same respect with which we treat everyone else. We work hard to maintain this church as a support system for marriages, but if your relationship ends in separation, here we will not make you feel guilty. Our effort is to respect the dignity of everyone, whatever their marital status. It's something we can take pride in as a religious community. In the same spirit, may each of us forgive. May each of us let go of our unrealistic expectations of others and move forward with our lives free from past feelings of anger and disappointment. Others make mistakes, and they hurt us. However, each of us is trying to do the best we can with what we know. And knowing this, may we forgive others, put the past behind us, and move on with our lives. Let's sing hymn number 6, Just as Long as I Have Breath. As we extinguish our chalice, I invite you to join me in our closing words. For those who come here seeking God, may God go with you. For those who come embracing life, may life return your affection. And for those who come to seek a path, may a way be found and the courage to take it step by step. Blessed be. Amen.